Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hello, I'm DJ Ross. I'm in Mountain View, California.
Each week here on Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week, we are playing PowerWash Simulator and Final Fantasy XIV Crystalline Conflict. And we'll check back in on Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and a monster's expedition through puzzling exhibitions.
Man, that's a long title again. A lot of long titles, sir.
A mouthful of video games.
It is.
Which, incidentally, is sort of that was our second choice for what we're going to call this podcast.
Was the show
actually.
name? Yeah, a mouthful of video games.
We were torn between Video Game Hangover and a mouthful of video games.
Yeah. Well, now we can have both of them.
Now, I'm not sure if we made the right choice, actually.
Well, is it too late to change it?
Is it too late? Welcome to episode 1 of A Mouthful of Video Games with Randy and DJ.
Maybe we just alternate every week. Like, Video Game Hangover one week, the next week is A Mouthful of Video Games. Maybe the shows could be slightly different in some weird way. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, we'll discuss this afterward.
We'll have to bring it up at the next staff meeting.
Yeah.
Welcome to episode 1 of the DJ Ross Vanity Project, starring DJ Ross.
Well, that's another thing. That's completely separate.
With a special guest appearance by Randy Dickinson.
Well, I was going to say, I don't think I was invited to the planning meeting for that show, which is a little unexpected.
Yeah, if anyone should be able to get into that, you would think. Maybe.
You'd think I'd be the first on the list, but no, apparently not. Apparently that is just something somebody else is making. Yeah,
I mean, we're going alphabetical, so, you know. A, B, C. You were, a little further down the list.
Okay, man, okay.
We were in the small conference room. That was the problem. We just ran out of seats.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, that's fine. I try not to attend too many meetings to begin with, so if that's what it takes, they can just have it.
Did you get the email about the meeting?
No, I just delete all emails when they come in.
Rightfully so. That's the answer we were looking for. Good job.
Why would you send me an email?
To prepare for the meeting.
Yeah. Oh, no more meetings. That's not what I need.
Yeah. Fewer meetings. I'm all about fewer meetings. Someday if I had my own company, no meetings. We have a strict no meeting policy.
Yeah. No meetings and no coming to work.
Best job ever.
That's my kind of company.
When will we do stuff, though? How will we do things?
Oh, you don't have to do anything. That's what makes it so great. Yeah, just chill out.
Question mark, question mark, question mark, profit.
Right. We're all about the step 2. We're just like, what is going on?
Making fat stacks of cash.
Yeah. That was incidentally the third option for the title of the show.
Fat stacks of cash, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, we took last week off, which is not a thing that we normally do.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe, do I owe people an explanation? Should we?
Do you? I was
sick. I was sick. I didn't feel well. I still don't feel great. I feel better, though.
You don't sound great.
No? Awesome. Thanks, DJ.
Not as great as usual.
No.
I'd say you're like maybe 80, 90%. It's fine.
90% is the... Yeah, today was like first big day back to work on and a lot of meetings and video calls and things like that. And people were like, "How have you been? How you feeling? Are you feeling better?" And I keep saying about 90%. I'm almost there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say on any given day, I would be 90%, whether I'm sick or not.
So yeah, my new answer is I'm just humming along at DJ Ross level.
Yeah, I was 90% of whatever I'm usually at.
Last week at this time, when I got the little pop-up on my phone that said, "Don't forget you have to record a podcast tonight," I was at 12%.
Ooh, that's not good.
No, it's bleak. It's not good.
That's really bad. What happens when you're at 0? Is that just you're dead?
I don't know. Let's not find out. I would prefer not to know.
Yeah, I mean, the
really.
12% sounds dire if that's the case.
It was so dire. I did nothing but play a Star Wars video game for like 6 hours.
So we're talking about just completely, your brain is gone at this point. You're playing Star Wars stuff.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. In cold sweats, blanket on, blanket off, blanket on, blanket off. Yeah. I can't stop playing
lightsaber.
Right. At one point, I was playing this video game, which I'll talk about on this week's show, obviously. DJ was playing it a few weeks ago, too. And my girlfriend, who works from home, came down and was like, what is even happening down here? Because all she could hear was me coughing and sneezing and the sound of lightsaber battles happening.
Yeah, I was like, what? Yeah. What's going on? Sounds like Star Wars in here.
Break it up, break it up, break it up. So, yeah. So that was how I mean, I can't even really sort of say it was an excuse that I was sick and not feeling myself and not in my right mind and played a Star Wars game. But I was genuinely curious about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order because you were pretty enthusiastic about it.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah. And you said it reminded you...
Before we get into it, I just want to clarify to everybody, it was not COVID that you had.
It was not. No, it was not. Yeah, and we do have to clarify that now, right? When you tell people I was not feeling well, you have to follow it up with it was or was not the COVID.
Yeah, just to put people's minds at ease.
Yes, in this case, it was not the COVID. I felt horrible, and when I did the home tests, I was like, nah, surely that can't be correct. Negative. It's not the COVID. So I went to a real doctor. I'm not a real doctor, and they said no, also not the COVID. And not the flu, so just some weird thing I picked up someplace.
You got the new thing.
I got the fancy new thing. I got that COVID-22 going on.
Oh boy. The one that makes you play Star Wars games.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Somehow Disney is behind this.
Oh, man. Well, they took some notes the last time they ran into Bill Gates at one of their meetings. Right. I don't know.
Yeah. So now I got to get the Disney Plus vaccination, and I don't know.
But it's the only way to stop it.
Not the COVID, just a cold. I'm a big baby. Hadn't been sick in a long time. Really kicked my butt. I don't recommend it. Not a fan.
Yeah, and generally something I try and avoid.
Yeah. And I had successfully avoided for a number of years at this point until I did not anymore.
Well, I'm glad you're on the way to recovery.
Thank you.
Close to 100%.
Close to, yeah.
I have prevented you from talking about a Star Wars video game for too long already, so let's get to it.
I feel, I've sort of jumped into our outline now, but I do want to mention that, didn't we have some funky new music playing on the way?
Oh, no, yeah, we should talk about this. We have new music this week from Saria Lemes. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Some very cool stuff you heard on the way in. We'll have another track over the outro. But very happy to have that on here. Sounds terrific. And if you're interested in hearing more, she's got quite a catalog on our Bandcamp here. You can go to peddypanol.bandcamp.com. That's PEDIPANOL.bandcamp.com. Or just go to VGHangover.com. We'll have the link right there.
Yeah. That's probably the safer choice if you're driving or on a treadmill right now.
Yeah. Please don't be typing stuff into your phone.
Did he say panel?
Yeah.
No, panol.
Panol, or something like that.
Panol, yeah. With apologies to Saria.
Yeah. But anyway, super fun music. The intro theme from everybody's favorite, Super Chicken Jumper.
Ooh.
And then, you're not hearing this on the show, but she's also doing some work for the game Yokai Inn, which is in development right now, which I'm actually pretty interested in. But that's very cool. You can hear that on Bandcamp currently, even though the game is not out yet.
Cool.
So thank you so much.
Yeah.
And now, Star Wars.
Now your Star Wars Minute with Randy Dickinson.
Yeah.
Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. You enjoyed this a few weeks ago. Is that not an accurate statement?
Yeah. No, I had a good time with this one.
And you said those magic words. It reminded you of an Uncharted game.
Right.
So I sick on my couch looking for something that I could play that was a little mindless, that would sort of hold my attention. And happened to notice that on the Game Pass thing on the Xbox is this Star Wars game.
Ooh. I didn't realize this was on Game Pass.
for no money down. I think it's like the EA part of the Game Pass. I think it's a separate
that's right.
thing.
That's right.
Yeah. But for, well, not no money down, the money I had already put down.
Right.
I could play the Star Wars game and didn't have to like seek out a copy of it or pay money to download it. And so, yeah, hit the download button. And in 17 to 46 hours later, it landed on my machine and started playing it and did not stop for any number of hours. It's you are absolutely correct. It's very entertaining.
Oh, good.
It's a lot of fun.
I have to say, there were definitely points towards the end of it. Maybe this was just me getting tired of it, but I was like, but maybe Randy wouldn't be into this.
No,
but I think that I was just projecting.
Yeah. So it definitely is some pretty wild swings in emotion because there are not long, but there are definitely periods of the game where it sort of crawls in its own like Star Wars butt and I don't know what's going on. So it's usually like the lead who is strangely sort of the redhead kid from Speechless, or what's that show called? Shameless.
I was going to say he's just Archie from Archie. I guess that's what he's from.
But he's on Shameless, and he was also the Joker on that TV show Gotham, which was kind of fun. But
yeah, you're talking about the actor,
the voice actor, and the physical actor, yeah, the motion capture actor, who has a real name that I don't remember at this point. With apologies to him. But yeah, it's usually him on a spaceship somewhere, like having a very long conversation with some other character about Star Wars things.
There's like, you see that new Star Wars movie?
No, I'm in it. I learned that you could not be a Jedi if you chose to. I didn't know that was a thing. I thought you were born a Jedi. Is that accurate?
Oh, you're talking about just in general. In the Star Wars universe, one can not be a Jedi. Correct,
because there was a woman he met who was like, I used to be a Jedi. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Can you just decide you don't want to be a Jedi anymore? Do you have to like send a note to HR? I don't know how that works. But
yeah, put in your notice.
Exactly. I need to focus on myself and spend time with my family. If only Darth Vader had done that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so mostly I don't care about any of that stuff. But what is interesting to me is that between those sort of interactions, they drop you on a planet and you have a cool lightsaber and a little robot that follows you around, and you do Uncharted / Tomb Raider type things.
A lot of shimmying along walls.
Yeah, and climb up vines and, some platforming. And much to my surprise, you do giant, like, Tomb Raider style tombs where there are massive sort of geometric and, what's the other word I'm looking for? I'm having trouble with words. Yeah, big puzzles that require you, navigating from a bunch of different rooms and pushing boulders onto rocks using your Jedi powers and things like that. Platforms and pushing buttons and trying to solve these huge puzzles. And then you get done and solve all the stuff, and the people on the ship are like, come back to the ship, we'll go to the next place. And then in the corner of the map it says, you've explored 32%. And I went, whoa. How is that possible? I'm not getting on the ship until that number is much higher.
Man.
Yeah. And I spend hours and hours and hours finding additional places that I can hide and run and wall jump and swing from vine to vine and shimmy up things and look for little pieces of buried Jedi treasure, which is very evocative of Uncharted and Tomb Raider. Yeah, so this is, in a lot of ways, one of those kinds of games where you're kind of flying all over the world, in this case, the universe, landing on very unusual and exotic planets and doing Tomb Raider things.
Yeah. It really caught me by surprise how large the tombs, I guess, are in this game. Because, like, even just completing the stuff you need to do for the story, you end up covering a lot of ground exploring these tombs. And then, like you said, there's just all this other stuff, all these little side paths and treasures you can go after if you're so inclined.
Mm-hmm. And every now and then you'll go through a door that will open up onto a ledge, and there's a bunch of stormtrooper guards there, and they're like, hey, there's the guy, and they start shooting at you. And it's never not satisfying to spin your little lightsaber thing around and shoot the lasers back at them. It's fun every time.
It's great. It's so good.
The sword fights, the lightsaber battles are pretty satisfying. It feels a bit like the Batman games where you wait for the sort of the tell that the attack is coming and you hit the counter button and stuff like that. And sword fighting I think is generally not done exceptionally well in video games, and it feels very satisfying in this.
I thought that in general they did a pretty good job. Like you were saying, it's not it wasn't super technical. Maybe during some of the boss fights it gets a little more involved, but generally, kind of hanging out with your lightsaber, kind of low pressure, just waiting for everybody else to come at you.
Yeah. So it doesn't feel like it is doing anything very new. In a lot of ways, it feels like it kind of doesn't really have its own identity. Like a lot of the things that it does just remind me of other video games that I like. Mm-hmm. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? I like Interpol because they sound like 16 other bands that I like that sound just like Interpol. So yeah, the Star Wars game reminds me of other video games that I like that do exactly this thing. Maybe a tiny bit better, but the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order game kind of does them all together. It's like the greatest hits of video games that you liked before.
Yeah. It kind of is, yeah. It's a little weird. I mean, I felt kind of weird recommending this as an Uncharted game because while you do a lot of platforming, you do not do any sort of like shooting and ducking behind obstacles and all that stuff. So that part is missing. But like you said, the sword fighting is pretty fun.
That's one of the things that I think is like a weird muscle memory from Uncharted or Tomb Raider, is that anytime I do dispatch a collection of the little stormtrooper guys, their dead bodies will be littered all over the ground with their guns laying nearby. And I'm like, just pick up the gun. Pick up the gun.
Yeah.
Why are you not picking up the gun?
I thought you were going to say you try and like reload your lightsaber or whatever.
Oh, no, nothing like that. I just don't understand why he doesn't pick up a gun and hide behind boxes and shoot back. But I guess if I had a glowy laser sword, maybe I would not be interested in using guns.
Oh, yeah. I mean, why shoot at enemies when you can just have them shoot themselves?
Correct. Yeah. And well, then you get like the force push.
Oh, yeah.
Thing, and it's basically like, how can I basically blow them over the side of cliffs on mountain faces and blow them into giant spinning fans and turbines and things like that. Kind of gruesome, but very much a rated PG kind of experience.
Oh yeah, it's completely bloodless as far as I remember.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm having a good time with it. Again, there are segments where I truly just don't have a clue what's going on. I'm not really even sure what the plot is at this point. You were a Jedi, but they don't like Jedis anymore in this version of the universe. So you're on the run and you're hiding it, but something happened, so you sort of revealed that you had powers, and now you're on the run again. And I'm not sure what the plot is here, the plan. I'm 5 or 6 planets into this thing, and I just keep thinking, okay, keep going to the next planet, go to the next one, keep finding more planets where there are boxes I can jump over and vines I can climb and, stormtroopers I can laser sword to death.
Yeah. In general, the plot was all right. I don't know if it was breaking a whole lot of new ground as far as Star Wars stories go. But there's always that whole codex thing if you really feel like you're missing out and you want to read up on it.
I don't think I knew that was in there.
Oh, I think it does a pretty good job because they break it down by chapter, which is basically, it's more or less just whichever planets you go to is 2 or 3 chapters. But yeah, occasionally I would dip back into it because I was like, well, I wonder if I missed something. I wonder if I missed one of the Jedi Inquisitors motivations or something, the last planet. But it was pretty good, just summarizing everything.
I think it's kind of fun too, in sort of going back to my thought that this is sort of the greatest hits of other video games, is that on the spaceship that you're being shuttled around the universe on, there's a terrarium. Did you play with the terrarium at all?
I did a little bit. Occasionally you would just find some seed growing somewhere and you'd be like, that will be great for the terrarium. So I would go put them in the terrarium, and that seemed like the extent of it.
Yeah, you put them in the terrarium, and then, as you progress through the game, they grow, and it fills your terrarium with cool little plants from all over the galaxy. And I'm like, we even get a little bit of Animal Crossing in here.
Okay. I see. It
is like all of the things that I love in video games.
Well, Well, I should have pitched it as an Animal Crossing Star Wars game, I guess.
It's like Animal Crossing meets Tomb Raider. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, if like me, you're in the minority of people who don't understand Star Wars most of the time, and it's not really a huge draw for you, but you do like, big dumb adventure games where you're globetrotting and finding treasure and dispatching bad guys, I would encourage you to check out the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just announced the sequel too.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a day one for me. But
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm that into it, but I'd like to see where it goes.
Yeah, maybe a Black Friday 1999. I might jump on that.
Interesting timing that you're bringing this up again, actually, because I've been watching the Obi-Wan show, and something I find really interesting about it is that the Inquisitors from Fallen Order are in it, and not the same characters, but the same sort of like black suited evil, like Sith lords or whatever. I don't know if they're Sith actually. but
I certainly don't know.
The guys who are chasing what's his name around in this game
Kestis.
Are they're like the second sister and I think the ninth sister. And then in the Obi-Wan show, there's the third sister and a few other Inquisitors. But I was like, oh, that's weird. That's the first time I can kind of remember Star Wars stuff from like one of the video games showing up in, I mean, it's not a movie, but it's like a pretty large Star Wars thing, like this TV series.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh, kind of interesting. It feels like they're giving extra special treatment to whatever was going on in this video game.
Yeah. I've very few points of reference back to Star Wars. I've seen the original trilogy and nothing else. But at one point you're on the Wookiee planet, and I was like, hey, I know what Wookiees are. There's that one Wookiee. He's very famous. And there's a battle with an AT-AT or an AT-AT. I'm not sure of how you're properly pronounce it. But it's like a big mech that walks around. And at some point in the video game, you get to be inside the thing. So it just turns into yet another video game where you pilot a mech and shoot at bad guys.
Yeah, that was a little surprise. It was fun.
Yeah. What was those video games that this developer made previously where you were a mech pilot?
Oh, Titanfall.
Titanfall, yeah. Where you did a lot of wall running in that game too occasionally. So, yeah, very evocative of other things. So, yeah, it's super satisfying. It is like this weird kind of puzzle box of greatest hits from other video games.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah. So, good recommendation, DJ. Keep them coming.
Oh, good. Well, you're gonna love what I've been playing.
What have you been playing?
We kind of joked about it last week or 2 weeks ago. PowerWash Simulator.
Oh, yeah.
But I'll get to that. What I'm super excited to talk about this week is they added this new PvP mode to Final Fantasy XIV, of course, called Crystalline Conflict. And I have been playing a surprising amount of that over the last couple weeks. Which is funny because they actually added this mode maybe a month or two at this point. It came out with the latest patch.
Before you dig deeper, can you clarify what does PvP mean for folks like myself who occasionally get that confused?
Oh, PvP. So in the context of this MMO, usually you're going around doing these dungeons, which are essentially co-op dungeons with other people. You're like on a party of 4 or 8 people trying to beat bosses and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. In the PvP mode, which stands for player versus player, you're fighting against other players. So this is a competitive mode.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And most MMOs have some sort of flavor of PvP mode. Some of them will just have like open world PvP, which is kind of interesting. Like you can be out questing and players from an enemy faction will just ride up and start attacking you, which is not a thing in Final Fantasy. You can only do PvP in a few specific modes, which are kind of, they're all like these team-based, kind of typical online gaming modes. There are a few that remind me of Battlefield or something where there's like, you capture control points, or some of them you just try and score more kills than the other team. But anyway, there's this new one. As I kind of hinted, they've gone through like several iterations or attempts to come up with like a really successful PvP mode at this point. So they have these large-scale ones with these huge teams of people. They've had a few different versions of these little tiny, like 4v4 modes. And it always seems like they've been trying to sort of cultivate this like competitive PvP scene. So almost like sort of an esports scene.
Mm-hmm.
Which is funny because I feel like that's not really like what the typical MMO player wants. Like, I think they just want to be doing the dungeons and like the questing and getting the storyline and everything. They don't necessarily want to like, be up on stage and fighting against other players and have somebody commentating their match at the International or whatever. But, I allow that there is an audience for that too. So it's nice that they keep trying to create something for those guys. And I'll like dabble in these PvP modes once in a while. Like whenever they introduce a new one, I'll just go in and check it out. And sometimes it's pretty fun. Sometimes it's not really my thing, and I'll just go back to doing other stuff. But anyway, so this Crystalline Conflict thing is brand new as of a few months ago. It's 5v5, so very small. The game type is sort of like a payload style from Overwatch, where there's this objective in the middle of the map, and whenever your team is near the objective, you push it in the direction of the enemy's goal. So it's kind of like just a tug-of-war style game mode. You try and spend more time on the objective than the other team. And meanwhile, of course, you're just like trying to murder the other team with your job abilities and all that stuff. And so speaking of job abilities, what they've done for this is they've sort of tossed out the whole skill set that you would use when you're playing a job in the PvE modes, which is, the sort of single player or multiplayer cooperative stuff. And they have designed new kits just for this new PvP mode, or just for like all PvP at this point. And what's interesting about this is that these new abilities, since they're designed specifically for PvP, they don't necessarily need to be balanced to work with all the rest of the content in the game. So there's not as much of a concern about, if we design this ability, it's like a sniper shot, the machinist job can pull off on one of the enemy team members. It'll just do like an absurd amount of damage from like all the way across the map. It's like pretty strong. But you don't need to worry about the implications of like bringing that into like a raid scenario or just one of the regular dungeons. It's just kind of a fun thing that exists in the PvP mode at this point.
Oh.
So they managed to like give jobs in PvP all these really unique and kind of weird, really kind of interesting abilities without having to worry about how it's affecting the rest of the game. And as a result, I think it's like, this is probably the most fun iteration of PvP that they've had so far, just because the jobs feel so kind of like dynamic and interesting to use. One of the, there's another job, like the Dark Knight. Like they have a signature attack that will spend their own hit points, their health, for you to execute it, which if you're playing as a Dark Knight in a dungeon or something, your health is like the most important thing because you're the one protecting the rest of the party from getting smacked by the bosses. So you want to, make sure you keep yourself alive. But in PvP mode, you're just like dropping off chunks of your health so you can do this huge attack on the other team. And it's great. I mean, that's kind of fun because that's how Dark Knights have typically worked in Final Fantasy games up until 14.
Oh, interesting.
So they have all these fun nods back to like previous iterations of jobs throughout the series too. So it's super fun, and as a result, I think it's really taken off with the community. Like, there's like a PvP hub, which has a bunch of shops and things and like training dummies you can practice on. And when this mode came out, it was the most crowded I've ever seen it in the game, like since release. Like there are just way more people in there than I've ever seen, and it was amazing because on one hand, it's just fun to see a huge group of people gathered in one zone because it feels really exciting and active. But also, it's like, oh, wow, they finally, like, they've been trying to make PvP a thing for the longest time. It seems like it might have actually stuck this time. So that's cool.
Yeah, that sounds sweet. I mean, it sounds like a little bit like a learning curve, though, for like a character maybe you feel like that inside and out, or a job inside and out, and now it does other stuff.
Yes, yeah, that's one of the hurdles of getting into it is, like, you can't just jump into it blindly. Because even if you're really familiar with playing a job in like dungeons or raids or whatever, they probably don't work the same if you're playing it in PvP. So you have to jump in and kind of like retrain yourself, like you were saying.
Learn it over, yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun though, right? I mean, for a game that you've spent no small amount of time playing.
Yeah.
It suddenly does new things.
Yeah, I mean, there's that angle, and then there's also like, oh, maybe a job that I'm not interested in playing in a dungeon or whatever. Maybe they'd be fun to play in this PvP mode.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah, I never thought of that. Has that been the case for you, or do you find that you're experimenting a little bit more?
A little bit. Like in one of the previous modes, I would play as a ninja, which I don't really enjoy doing in dungeons. But what I really liked is as a ninja, you can conceal yourself. You just make yourself invisible and camp out around an objective and wait for the whole enemy team to walk by because they don't notice you. And as soon as they go by, you like reappear and capture it. They're like, oh no, there was a ninja there the whole time. Oh, pesky ninjas. But sort of along those lines, in solo content, I'll usually play as a black mage, which is like a caster or a wizard type of job. And in this PvP mode, I wasn't a huge fan of how they work. They're like a little cumbersome. It's just not really my style, so I've been playing as other stuff. But what it turned out was going on is they, when they made all these adjustments, they decided they sort of undertuned this black mage job. And this has been an interesting result of just PvP being more popular suddenly, is it seems like the development team is giving it a lot more attention because it almost feels like it's like a typical online competitive game at this point. It's like Overwatch, the amount of people playing it within the community. So, they're devoting a little more attention to it just to make sure everything is working out. And they're making all these balance changes to make sure nobody's, has an unfair advantage over people. And they said what they realized, specifically this black mage job, was winning fewer matches than all the other jobs by like a significant percentage, which they don't really like. So this is sort of what brings me to what I want to talk about this week about this PvP mode. In the most recent update, they were like, okay, we're going to fix this job. We're going to bring it back up to the level of all the other jobs. And they went way too far. So now this job is like way overpowered to the point where this update came out. It had been out for a few days, and the producer released this letter online that was like, sorry guys, we went way too far with these balance adjustments. We didn't mean this. We're like, sorry, you guys are having a rough time fighting against these other black mages because they're just admittedly too strong. And I was saying, so up to this point, I had avoided playing this job because it wasn't super fun. But as soon as the word got out that this job, it's like way too strong now and people are having a bad time, I was like, oh, well, definitely have to get in on this. So for the last 2 weeks, I've just been jumping
if there's a bad time to be had, DJ Ross is there.
Yeah, I was like, I'm just going to get on this black mage and check it out. And so for the last 2 weeks, I have just been wrecking people on the other team with this job that I barely played before. It's hard to say exactly what the where the tipping point was. They gave it so many buffs this last time around. They just made it faster and made a bunch of its abilities do more damage. And you can essentially like lock down the entire other team with these freeze spells and all this other crazy stuff. It's just, wow. It looks ridiculous. It's like a fireworks show whenever you go in there now. But it has been so fun, and admittedly, I feel a little dirty about it because they have said like, "Oh, we got to fix this as soon as possible so we can balance things out again."
But not yet.
But not yet. No, got to get in while the getting's good. So
right, yeah.
I've just been enjoying. Every day I'll just pop in for a few matches with my black mage, and just ruin some people's day.
Whose day can I ruin? Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's funny. So. It begs a question. Why is it not 5 black mages versus 5 black mages? Why doesn't everybody play this character?
Well, so you can only have one of each job on a team.
Oh,
otherwise you might actually have that sort of
right.
All black mages versus black mages comp, which would be exciting. I would like to see that actually. So that keeps it, slightly balanced. But man, it's been a long time since I played a competitive online multiplayer thing and was just able to wreck people like this. As I've gotten older, it's like, I don't know what it is exactly, but I've sort of moved away from just multiplayer online stuff in general. I did a lot of that back in the PS3 generation. Mm-hmm. These days, I definitely prefer let's just take it easy. Let's do some single player stuff. I don't need to deal with all the stress and anxiety and adrenaline that comes with playing competitively against other people who, like, I'll admit, probably have a better idea of what they're doing than I do in these modes.
Yeah.
And I think that's even still the case with all these buffs, but I'm just like, oh man, they made it so easy for me. I'm totally fine with just jumping in and acting like I know what's going on, acting like I'm a pro player here.
Excellent.
So man, I've just been doing so much of this. It's been a big surprise. It's like, oh man, there are all these other games I wanted to play, but I have to just make the most of this until they get these fixes out, which I think they're doing, like, as we were recording this. They said they're going to release a balance patch, so
oh no,
that was probably the end of my run as a black mage in PvP. But man, it has been so good.
Well, I mean, that sounds like a good time. I'm sorry I missed it. You should have recorded or streamed or something. I would love to see just you waste everybody in Final Fantasy once.
I'm sure there's some videos of other people doing the same stuff.
Yeah.
But the good news is, I mean, it seems like, they're going to tweak the damage levels back down a little bit so it evens out a little more, and they'll continue to make these changes as necessary. But overall, the Crystalline Conflict mode is still super fun, and I still expect to dip into it every once in a while.
Cool. It doesn't have to be broken to be fun then, right?
Right. This was just a unique opportunity. It was like, oh man, I can't think of, occasionally you'll hear about some game you're playing has this weird exploit where, you're able to earn too much money, or maybe one weapon is just way overpowered for some reason. And that never seems to happen in any of the games that I'm playing. But since everything lined up this time, I'm just like, oh, now is the time for me to take advantage of some balancing oversight.
Yeah. And in general, when I hear that about, like, usually online multiplayer games, it generally just sounds like sour eggs from somebody who got killed or blown up or whatever too many times. Oh, that character's nerfed or whatever. Yeah.
That was probably me on the forums complaining about it, actually.
But it has generally not been the case when I get to a video game that there is an option to play something that's sort of broken to my favor. I feel like everything has been hyper-tuned and hyper-balanced, and everybody has way more experience than me at playing the thing anyway, so it's just tipped way in the opposite direction. So, yeah, I don't blame you, man. I would absolutely have just done a ton of this all weekend.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, I'll let you know the next time it happens. It'll be great.
Yeah, please. Absolutely.
I don't know if you were playing Modern Warfare 2 when there was some glitch with, like, you could run around with double shotguns or something, and the shotguns just did way too much damage or were way too accurate. But I remember a couple weeks, or maybe more than a couple weeks, or I forget how long this lasted, during the lifespan of that game, where it seemed like everybody in every lobby was just like dual shotguns all the time. And I was like, well, if you can't beat them, I'll just get my own dual shotguns.
Yeah, beat him with 2 double shotguns.
Yeah, and I did, and it was great until they nerfed that as well. So
sure,
I forgot.
That's fantastic.
That actually did happen at one point.
So anyway, that's so good.
Heartily recommend Crystalline Conflict if you're playing 14. Who knows? Maybe they'll make a balancing mistake in this next patch too, and it'll be like, ninjas are way too strong now. Everybody wants to be a ninja. Yeah,
I mean, I kind of want to unpack how you don't like being a ninja, but that's maybe a different conversation for a different day.
Well, I mean, I could definitely get into it, but yeah, we'll save it for the time.
People like being ninjas, right? Unless you like being
It's
a pirate.
true.
Those are your 2
Generally,
options.
Right. You definitely have to decide one or the other. I like the idea of being a ninja. I just don't like how they work in 14 necessarily.
Oh, okay. So it's not like an ethical thing.
Oh, no, I have nothing against ninjas in general. Yeah, I would love to be a ninja.
Some of my best friends are ninjas.
Don't get me wrong. Please don't assassinate me because I spoke unkindly about ninjas.
Excellent. Man, one of the other video games that I've dipped back into recently is this Monsters Expedition Through Puzzling Exhibitions.
Yes.
Talked about this in the show a couple of weeks ago. The developers of this game, Dracnet and Friends, recently did what they called a Cerebral Games Showcase, and it's on YouTube. You could dig it up now, and it was like a puzzle game direct or a wholesome direct or a Nintendo direct, but it was all kind of thinky puzzle games developed by Dracnet and friends. So it was a cool opportunity for them to sort of get some other people together who make cool, thoughtful puzzle games to sort of showcase those. And they had a bunch of different little featurettes, and some patches were dropped for video games that had been out for a little bit, like A Monster's Expedition. And the thing about A Monster's Expedition, and that I sort of mentioned on the show a couple weeks ago, is that it felt kind of Google-proof. That it's a big open world game where you're a little monster who is basically flipping logs over, trying to find a way to get from one island to the next. But the map gets so expansive that it's hard to tell kind of where you are. So you can't Google solution to little island puzzle, because every island on Monster's Expedition is a little island puzzle. So, there's little coordinates that pop up, so you can kind of Google the coordinates, but that presumes somebody else has also solved that coordinate somewhere. So it's a tough game to get help with. It's a ton of fun.
If I remember correctly, it's not really like completely linear either, too. So it's not like you could just Google solution to puzzle 10. Right.
Because you depending on how you play it and what you sort of discover as you go, you could be spiraling out from a central point on the map where everybody starts in a bunch of different directions. So you're absolutely right. Is your pathway through this may not sort of sync up with anyone else's. And that was one of the other things that I found as well, is that I would find YouTube walkthroughs, complete 100% walkthrough of A Monster's Expedition. And I'm like, great, but you didn't play the way that I played. You didn't go the exact order that I went. And I'm not watching this entire video to try to figure out the solution to this one little puzzle I'm stumped on. So in a lot of ways, I would just continue to what haven't I tried yet? How can I push these in different directions? Can I, vary the order, et cetera, et cetera. So you look for, the little shorthand the game uses to try to find the solution. And sometimes, more often than not, I would stumble upon them. But I got to, or you just whatever, I'm not going this direction anymore. I'll backtrack and go a different way around. Yeah. But I kind of got stuck. And I had a lot of fun with it, and I was like, oh, maybe I'm not going to see the end of this game. It's a pretty big game, and I'm not going to, beat my head against a wall to try to solve any more Monsters Expedition puzzles. And then they patched it, and they put in a little hint mode. Oh. And this sort of coincided with their Thinky Games showcase from a few weeks ago. Dropped the patch on all the platforms that have Monsters Expedition, and added it to PS4. The game had not been previously available there now. So it is now on Switch, it's now on PS4, and it is also on PC. And it has this fun little hint mode that, surprisingly, for a hint mode, doesn't break the experience of the puzzle game. Because what it does is it shows you the solution to the puzzle, but it still doesn't tell you how to get there.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So you're on the island and you're trying to figure out how do I build a bridge? What tree do I knock over? What combination of trees do I roll into each other, et cetera, to sort of build a little bridge to the next island? Or does it turn into a little boat and I swim the boat away or someplace else? What it'll do, it'll show you just a little gray outline of where the tree has to go to solve the puzzle of that island, essentially. But you still have to sort of reverse engineer your way back from there to figure out how do I get the tree to that spot. So it's a solution, but it's not a formula. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's an interesting approach. I mean, it's tricky to have a hint mode in a puzzle game in general.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like sometimes the way that puzzle games have handled it in the past, I think the Professor Layton is that it's
the
sort of
worst.
A progression of hints where you can pay one little hint coin to get a level 1 hint, and the level 1 hint is so vague that it doesn't help you at all. But if you pay 3 coins, you get the level 3 hint, which basically spells out the solution for you.
Yeah, and there's just no in between.
Right, and it's just it's tough. It's a fine line, right? And I think you're trying to make games that are accessible. You're trying to make games that people see through to the end. We all have different sort of friction levels. In a puzzle game, I'm inclined to maybe, bang my head against the wall a little bit longer than maybe your average player is. But yeah, I like that this exists now. And the cool thing is you can turn it off. Is if you don't want it to be there, if you're the kind of person who just, no hints for me. I'm going to a complete no hint playthrough of a Monsters Expedition. That option is there for you as well. So it's cool. It has helped me get past some of the barriers that I've encountered, and as a result, I'm like 17 hours into this game.
Oh my god,
the little clock in game, and I'm like, just solving little micro puzzles, just little like, how many directions can I go? How many islands can I solve in a 15-20 minute little sprint before bed tonight? And yeah, over the course of the last couple of months, I've put 17 hours into this thing. And there are still, as I blow up the entire map, there's still little parts of it that are kind of cloud covered, which means that there's something there I haven't solved yet. So there's still more game to play, which is kind of insane to me. So the return on investment for a Monsters Expedition through puzzling exhibitions has been insane. And I'm a lot of sort of appreciation and admiration for the way that they've sort of deployed the hint mode to patch the game at this point. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun kind of going back to it and seeing, the log's supposed to go there. And then my brain starts to fire on all cylinders to try to figure out how to get to that point.
Is there typically just like one solution to each island? There's not really like, I solved it by placing the log over here, that kind of thing?
There's a couple of interesting sort of ways to answer that. Is that, yes, the game will give you sort of the one kind of through line, the company sponsored solution, I guess, that the developers kind of had in mind. But there are also additional secrets. There are things that you can do. Like in some cases, there's just a bridge that takes you to the island most adjacent to the one that you're on. But if you can get 2 logs there, that means you now have built a boat. And if you have something you can push off from, you can get further away than maybe I have to presume the developers intended it, but the game considers that to be a secret. And there's a mode you can turn on in the game too that shows you little icons for some of the secrets in the map. So yes, to answer your question, there are kind of, anticipated solutions to some of these puzzles, but that maybe isn't the whole story. There may be other cool things that you can kind of encounter and discover on the map in the world of a Monsters Expedition that feel less sort of deliberate and less like solutions and more like, oh, look, I discovered a cool thing.
Oh, but it sounds like more or less everything you can do, like all the results you can get were sort of like predetermined as they were designing this.
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm on the Dracnet Discord. And in the Monsters Expedition channel, people will post screenshots sometimes going, did I break this? Is this broken? Is this because there's so many different ways you can kind of solve these things. Is this right? Is this a glitch? Et cetera, et cetera. And inevitably Dracnet himself, I forget his real name, but the developer of the lead developer on this game will chime in going, nope, that's on purpose. You're so close.
Oh.
Yeah. Or, we didn't see that before. That's interesting. And we'll make a note of it and stuff like that. So there's been a couple of little things that have kind of popped up in that channel in this game that has so many different kind of routes and potential solutions that even the developers, I think, are a little surprised with how people are breaking it sometimes. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Is that something they decided that was something they definitely needed to add because there were people just having issues with solving it normally? Or, I mean, it sounds like there's just so much in this game, it maybe took them a while to roll out this hint system. Yeah,
I suspect that was the case. I don't know if it's like a by popular demand kind of thing, but yeah, it feels like an accessibility tool in a lot of ways. That if I made any game, I would want as many people as possible to see the end of it, and I know that's a pretty rare thing in video games. If I've learned anything from the trophies and the Xbox achievements you get for completing games, that those are usually 10-11% of all gamers have gotten to this point. And that's got to be very dispiriting. So yeah, I have to suspect the developers Dracnet himself would like to see as many people get as close as possible to finishing some higher proportion of this game. But yeah, I don't know if that was sort of directly the influence, or if it was part of their intent all along and just wasn't ready for the day one release of the thing. But yeah, it's all here now. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So this is called, again, A Monster's Expedition Through Puzzling Exhibitions. Super fun, very addictive puzzle game. Would highly recommend. The developers are, one of the things that they announced during their puzzle direct from a few weeks ago was that they are releasing a physical version of this on a little Switch cartridge that comes with all of their other video games.
Oh.
So every puzzle game that they've made before, so there's there's 3 or 4 of them. Sokoband, what are they called? Something Express, Moonlight Express.
They do Bonfire Peaks is the one you keep talking about?
Bonfire Peaks, yeah. There's a cool little one with that's similar mechanically to A Monster's Expedition, where instead of solving puzzles by moving logs around, you're building snowmen.
Oh, right, yeah. You mentioned that one too.
I think it's called A Good Snowman is Hard to Build. And so all of their puzzle games will exist on this one little Switch cartridge that's coming out physically, I think, late this summer. So if any of this sounds like fun to you, or if you're just really into kind of cool puzzle games that do really kind of interesting things, would absolutely recommend checking out Dracnet and Friends, and certainly look up A Monster's Expedition.
Cool.
Yeah. So tell me a bit about PowerWash Simulator.
All right, so I played it just inspired by my offhand comment about your offhand comment about getting your house power washed.
Yeah.
I just had to
a surprisingly satisfying adult experience.
Yeah. I had to tell you, PowerWash Simulator, a surprisingly satisfying gaming experience, I suppose. It is, I want to say it's pretty much exactly what I expected. In that the main mode is this career mode where you're given progressively larger sort of power washing tasks that you need to complete. And by completing each of these tasks, you earn money to funnel back into your power washing business. So it's almost like an RPG a little bit, because you start off, you've just won this filthy looking sort of like industrial van at an auction or somewhere, I don't know. And you start off by power washing the van. You just go around all sides and you get your little power washer. You could, it's like, it plays like a first person shooter essentially, where you use the mouse and keyboard to aim your power washer around. But from there, you can do all these little like tweaks, whether you can rotate it 90 degrees. So whether you want to do a horizontal or a vertical sort of spray. There's like a fine aiming mode where if you just want to plant yourself down and power wash one specific area of whatever you're working on, you can do that. But a lot of it is just like, okay, just get rid of all the dirt off this van or this building or whatever happens to be in front of you. And I have to say, you do get a little bit of that. I've never used a power washer in person myself. But I imagine, just the satisfaction of seeing your filthy house and taking a power washer to it and, spraying off layers of grime and being like, oh, that was the actual color underneath all this dirt that's accumulated over all the years. Is that sort of amount of satisfaction, just seeing the true appearance of things. So as I was saying, you just work your way through these different jobs. Like you start out with the van, and I think the next thing was you have to clean somebody's backyard, which is, it's got bunch of it's like a patio set and a grill and I think a little house or a little playhouse for their kids or something. And man, it's kind of, I know it's a video game, so all of the stuff needs to be dirty or there'd be no point, but it's like, what happened in this guy's backyard? Everything is just covered in just like, is there a volcano here or something? It's just everything's black, like so much soot or whatever, grease, I don't know. But I found it's just been kind of a fun, like, relaxing thing to do. It's not especially, it's not very mentally taxing. You just point your power washer at stuff that is dirty, and after a few seconds, it's not dirty anymore, and then you just move on to the next thing.
Can you fail? Is there a way to, die? or
Not that I've seen.
Oh, okay.
There was a moment, I think, So when I started that backyard level, there was like a cat or something on the playhouse. And I immediately, this is just my diseased gamer brain speaking. I was just like, oh, what happens if I shoot the cat with the power washer? But it ran off before I could do that. So I mean, it's probably a good thing. Who knows what happened. Right. But no, you're just sort of there on the job site until everything is clean. And, you don't even have to stick around the whole time. You can, take a break. You can go work on a different job if you got bored of this other one, or if you decide you need to earn money somewhere else so you can buy better upgrades for your tools. And then you come back to it later when you're slightly more capable, perhaps. But for the most part, it's just an excuse for you to hang out and clean some stuff for the power washer, which maybe you can sort of imagine how entertaining you would find that to be if this is the sort of thing that would appeal to you. I feel like if there's a weakness with this, it's that it throws a lot of these potential upgrades at you where there's a whole range of things you can buy with the money you earn for these jobs. So you can just buy progressively more powerful power washers. You can buy extensions for them. There's like a long range extension. There's like some kind of like close range or medium range extension. You can buy different cleaning fluids, which are more effective on different surfaces or depending on the type of like dirt that is accumulated on them. And it feels like as I progress from one of these jobs to the next one, like everything is getting slightly dirtier and my power washer is like just noticeably less effective on them. I have to do a few more passes over each surface than I would have in the previous job. So it feels like eventually at some point you're going to need to invest in some of these upgrades unless you want to just spend, a huge amount of time just redoing everything, like going over each surface multiple times with your little like level 1 power washer or whatever. And the issue I have with it is that you just don't earn a whole lot of money from these jobs, or at least you don't earn it as quickly as I feel like I would like to be earning it. Because when some of these jobs...
You gotta grind the power washer game?
It feels a little grindy.
Oh, wow.
But I mean, like, I don't know, maybe I'm in too much of a hurry to fully appreciate this game. Maybe I'm supposed to be taking my time a little more. Because, I mean, it really just is a game... It's like so menial. It's just like, I'm going to watch this entire playground of this whole like play structure or whatever. And it's not like an incredible, technically challenging task. It's just a matter of time. Spend an hour or so pointing your thing at every surface on this playground and you'll be done. There's not really a question of if you'll be able to finish something. It's just a function of how long you spend waving the power washer over it. So maybe that's my way of saying like it does get a little tedious after your third or fourth job power washing this entire sort of like this garden or somebody's house. But I guess that's sort of the point. Like that is what I signed up for. I did say like, yes, I would be interested in playing a game about power washing. So that's what I'm going to do.
So I hope it doesn't have a lot of power washing in it.
I know, it's like, man, surprising amount of power washing in this game. I wonder what's going on.
Yeah. So does it get to that satisfying thing of like, I took this thing that was dirty and I sort of like washed the dirt off of it in a very, I keep coming back to the word satisfying. Like, the thing that's sort of satisfying about power washing, or I've seen the videos on YouTube with people cleaning like Oriental rugs and like pushing, decades of dirt and stuff out of it. So it sort of comes out in like little rivers of dirt, little lines of sludge washing off of the house. Does the game sort of hit that, I don't know, that weird little sensory button that makes you feel good about the thing that you're doing? Yeah.
I think it does. I mean, the hang up I have about it is I love seeing, like I've seen videos of people power washing stuff and they just, sweep the power washer over a surface and like suddenly half that surface is a different color than the other half that they haven't washed yet. And I was like, oh man, that's great. I want to do that. And that's basically what happens in the first couple levels in this game. But once you get farther into it, you sweep it over a surface and there'll still be like lingering dirt on that half. And you're just like, oh man, it's not quite what I wanted. So that's what I'm saying. You need to keep upgrading your washer in order to, recapture that high from the first time you power wash the surface.
Always chasing the new high. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but I do like, it's fun and it's still satisfying going into a job and, looking at something, you're just like, oh man, this is filthy. This is going to take forever. And after you clean a little corner of it, like after you reach a certain like cleanliness threshold on a part of the environment, it'll sort of clean up that entire section, and the whole surface will shine, and it'll just look immaculate. And it's like, oh, well, I did a really good job with that one. And even when you complete the entire job, it will show you a little time lapse of your guy going around the environment and like cleaning up. So you can actually see the progress. Like, oh, wow, this looks like a completely different house after I was done with it.
Awesome.
So that's fun. But still, I kind of wish they would throw money at you a little faster than it does, because I really got my eyes on those high-end power washers. They're so much better than the ones I have.
Anyone's got a cheat code for PowerWash Simulator, hit up GJ, please.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I want to, like, if I'm that desperate to get ahead in the PowerWash Simulator. But something I read that was kind of alarming, because I was like, I was trying to look up tips on the Steam forums or just, other PowerWash Simulator communities, because I feel like, I'm kind of a self-taught power washer. Maybe there's some key technique that I'm missing out on.
Right.
What can I learn here? And also, how do I just make more money faster? Because what I have realized is that you can't replay the jobs to earn money again. So it's actually, you can't really grind stuff out. And apparently, there is just a finite amount of money you can earn in this game. So if you're not careful and you just go crazy buying all these extensions and different soaps, and there are all these like different outfits you can buy for your character, which are different colors and patterns and things. And I saw that and I was like, that seems unnecessary. I don't see how that's going to help me become a more effective power washer. But basically, you could just spend all of your cash buying outfits for yourself and not be able to afford the higher end power washer stuff.
Oh.
And in fact, some of it sounds like you can go into a job where you really need the long, like the distance extension for your power washer. And if you can't afford it, you can no longer complete the job. So I was like, oh, maybe in that case, there is kind of a fail state.
So the cost of the upgrades exceeds the cost of the amount of money that's available in the game.
It seems like it, yeah. But that's like, you just have to be a little more deliberate. Like, don't buy all the fancy extensions for the basic power washer you start out with, because you're just going to replace it and you have to buy new extensions. So it seems like it might be difficult to get to that point where you have just spent money incorrectly. But I think that's also just, it lines up with me feeling like I'd love to be earning more money from these jobs that I'm doing, because it feels like that, the top of the line washer is still a ways away.
Well, that's crazy. That seems a little broken.
Well, I mean, it's not a huge detractor at this point, but it's definitely, I'm glad I read about it, because I was thinking of buying one of those extensions, and now I'm just like, oh, we got to be responsible and save up for the really powerful washer so I can
the good
get
ones.
this thing.
Yeah, it's funny.
It's still like, I've been just putting this on. I mean, not really putting this on. I'll like put on a TV show or something, and in the background I'll do a little power washing. It's like, oh yeah, just take care of some work while I'm watching TV or whatever. Just a real weird game to play. Overall, though, it's been fun. The career mode is interesting. There are a bunch of weird little side modes. Like you can re-challenge a mode and try and complete it using a limited water supply or under a certain time limit. So it's slightly more pressure. And then there are these weird variety missions where you're cleaning something ridiculous like the Mars rover or like a mini golf course, which I tried. Like the Mars rover was good, but as soon as I realized I wasn't earning money from any of the bonus missions, I was like, oh no, forget this. I gotta go back and do my job. I got money to earn.
Go back and clean things on Earth.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, I was like, man, the Mars rover, isn't it just going to get dusty again instantly? I'm just going to go back up there right away. It's going to be a headache. It's
funny you said a little more pressure. That's funny.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I get it.
You would think that'd be one of the upgrades.
Yeah. Oh, man. There's actually like a surprising amount of nuance to it, because you can switch from like a very like high pressure nozzle to a wider one, which doesn't have as much pressure. So you end up covering more of an area, but it doesn't get as clean. So that's why I start thinking like, oh man, so what do the real power washers do? Do they just use the little one? And I don't know. There's something just so satisfying about just being able to clean in a huge swath of dirt off the wall.
Right.
But I don't know. Everybody has their own power washing style.
Nice. Well, there's got to be a Discord where you can sort of share techniques and stuff like that.
That's the next step. I'm just going to join a bunch of power washing communities and be asking a bunch of questions. And Maybe they'll get clued in at some point that I'm talking about a video game. Get
pro.
Yeah. So anyway, PowerWash Simulator, pretty much what you'd expect. And I kind of love that this game even exists. I mean, power washing is such a specific thing already. The fact that somebody decided, like, oh, it would be cool if there was a game where that was the only thing you did is amazing.
Yeah. Well, nice. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's it is most of the time.
Yeah, my weird adult version of that was paying people to do it while I was not home. So I left and my house was one color and I thought it was clean. And then I came back and it was a different color and was much more clean.
Yeah, see, that doesn't sound satisfying at all. You missed the whole process.
Yeah. I mean, it would be satisfying to sort of see it as it happened, but I had to work. It just could not be helped. I had to sort of be able to afford those upgrades. I had to work to be able to pay the power washers. Yeah. So
you should have asked them to take a little time lapse while they were working.
Take a little. Would you put this little GoPro on your head while you're doing it? You don't mind, do you?
Yeah. Yeah. Also wear this little blue like spaceman suit. That would be great.
Good times. All right, well, let's wrap this thing up. If you need any more video game hangover in your brain, you should follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover. And you can always get show notes and links and tell us what you thought about this episode at VGHangover.com. We would love for you to join our Discord. You can hang out with us, chat about video games and music and all kinds of other things. You can get a link to that at VGHangover.com. And we would love for you to subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, and anywhere else you can get a podcast. And help us out. Hook us up. Tell your friends about the show, please.
Yeah, really helps us get the word out. Tell them that, man, I listened to a show where they talked about both Star Wars and power washing. How many shows out there are like that?
Can I power wash things with my lightsaber?
Oh, that sounds dangerous. But who knows? Maybe that's how they get it done in the Star Wars universe.
The lightsaber porn in this is a very weird thing. Where
like the lightsaber customization or whatever?
The lightsaber customization where I just sort of thought, okay, well, it just changes the color of the thing. No, it's the whole thing. Like you can change like the lens and the handle part. And it's not
like
just
multiple aspects of the handle.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's not just like, it doesn't just happen. Like he puts it down on a little stand on a table and you can sort of like spin it and rotate it and like, who is this for? Like,
I don't know. Some people really into lightsabers.
Really, really into it. Yeah. Although I tell you, the first time I got the little upgrade where I could like shoot two lightsabers out of the stick at the same time.
Oh yeah.
That was pretty cool. I was like, is that a thing? Do people do that?
Pretty good. Didn't
know that.
It's like when people change the rims on their car, or like when I do it in Grand Theft Auto, because that's as close as I get to doing it. It's like, well,
right.
Oh, now it looks slightly different than the ones I had before, but I'm sure somebody else out there is appreciating this more than I am.
Right. This is a thing that people appreciate. Yeah.
Anyway,
yep.
We want to give thanks again to Saria Lemes this week for our new intro and outro music. If you want to hear more of her work, you can go to pettypanol.bandcamp.com and check out the rest of her discography. We'll have the link to that at VGHangover.com as well.
Awesome. We'll be back next week. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks so much for listening to Video Game Hangover. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Good night.
See ya.